Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. Who knows what title I'm going to come up with for this, but we're going to be talking about options and boundaries because we feel like this has been a big theme this, I guess, Taurus season. We've both been experiencing in different areas of our life, of business, that we're just being presented with options from the universe. And then also opportunities to learn and exercise setting boundaries. So I don't know, do we want to start with options? Like, do you have any general thoughts about like options and boundaries and what that has been for you this season?
I think the universe presents us many options when we're in alignment.
I like that.
I think that's been a big lesson for me this Taurus season, coming out of retrograde, coming out of eclipse season, is the more aligned I've been, the more options the universe has presented to me. And the majority of those options are really good options, but still also to see if I'm going to set boundaries where boundaries need to be had, and if I'm standing firm in my alignment and what would serve me for my highest good.
Ooh, okay.
Thoughts?
A lot of thoughts.
Okay.
This is going to be a great episode, you guys. I can already tell. So, okay, I love so much of what you said because you said that you feel like we're being presented with a lot of options when we're in alignment, which one I like that because I think in a way I kind of struggle with that still because in my mind alignment means like here's your path, you know? And I feel like what you're saying, which I think is true, is you're in alignment, so here's multiple paths, you know? And then also what you said, though, is that you feel like even with those options, there's still better options than other ones, which I think is really interesting. And what it makes me think of is how, as humans, we have free will.
Yeah.
And we're meant to have free will. And I think that's why we're presented with options instead of an option a lot of times, is because then we still have that power. And I think that's a really important lesson to learn is like, don't give away your power. And I think we can do that so much, especially in our world. Like, you know, even with me, it's like I do readings, I book readings, and I think we can easily give away our power with like wanting everyone else to tell us. I'm guilty of even like thinking the universe is going to just tell me like what to do. But if the universe doesn't do that, like why would we do that to ourselves?
You just mentioned about how sometimes we tend to give our power away when we're doing readings. This is a little sidetrack. I think what can really help us, and something that I practice myself, is to make sure that whenever I'm going into a reading, it's more of a confirmation versus trying to find the answer.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
I have to feel it internally and know what I'm feeling, what conclusions I'm coming up in my own head. And then if I need extra clarity, then I'll book a reading. But I think a lot of us tend to rely on external sources to give us that validation and opinions instead of looking within. But that's a little sidetrack. I wanted to kind of just throw that in there because I think it's really easy to give away our power. And I think that that's a big lesson for you and I this past season of everything that happened energetically. I think the two of us have learned, not only in like love life, with friendships, with boundaries, with business, and I just think there's so much that we're going to unpack today.
Yeah. And I really love what you were saying about paths and alignment and options. So from your perspective, how do boundaries come into play within that?
Oh my God. Like, in what area do we want to focus, first of all? There's so much that I learned. Repeat your question again.
So how, like when it comes to having multiple options and paths when we're in alignment, how do boundaries come into play with that?
I'm going back to what you said earlier, not giving away our power. And I think making sure that whatever decision I'm making aligns with me, is aligning with my goals, my I don't want to say boundaries again, but like my expectations, my standards, and that has worked for me, or what I've been learning with business, with friendships, with family, every single person in my life, basically. But for me, it's just mainly knowing if it aligns with my goals, my higher self, my expectations, my standards. And that's how I'm able to know when to draw boundaries with people or situations.
I like that. And the way I see it too is almost like the boundaries help us stay in alignment and help us stay within the realm of the aligned paths for us. Because without that, it's easy to get like off path, you know, because we're not honoring like, this is what allows me to be in alignment, and anything outside of this is outside of a boundary because it is outside of my alignment.
Yeah. I want to ask you the same question in return.
Which one?
The one that you just asked me.
About boundaries?
Yes.
I think that's what it is. I think it's us knowing like what is true for us, what is in alignment with our highest selves, our most aligned path, and then saying no to everything that is not that. And I think that that's what boundaries are, is us learning this is a yes and everything outside of that is a no. And it is really hard to cut out or say no. At least for me, like I find that as much as I've learned about boundaries, I still struggle to implement and communicate them, and it's a lifelong learning.
Oh, absolutely. Do you consider yourself a people pleaser?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think I became aware of it about a year ago, so I've been trying to like work on it. So I think I'm getting better, but it's still really hard, at least in certain areas. I feel like when it comes to business, I'm not, and I've really learned, I think this past year, it was a lot of me learning to not be a people pleaser in business and with friends. And that's like the work I've been doing this past year, so it's gotten easier. I don't want to say it's easy because it's still hard, but I've been able to exercise it better. I feel like dating is the area where now I'm like, oh, gotta work on that.
What advice would you give to people that are people pleasers trying to draw boundaries in their life?
To just do it. Like, I wish I had better advice, because like I wish I could say, do this and then it'll get easy and then you do it. But I think the reality is like I had to draw boundaries with friends even when it was hard. I had to draw boundaries in business even when it was hard, and it was uncomfortable every step of the way. But the more I exercised it, the easier it got. And again, I'm not saying it's easy, but it just got easier and less uncomfortable to understand, like, I can't do this, and I need to say that, and even still sometimes feel bad about it, but just knowing it's still my truth, regardless of how I feel. So I think the best thing I can say is just do it. Like, you just gotta do it, as uncomfortable as it is, as hard as it is. And the more you do it, the stronger you're gonna build that muscle, and you'll be able to just do it more and with more ease.
And how have people reacted to you in a situation when you've set boundaries? And have you ever had to navigate through a situation where someone reacts negatively towards that boundary?
I feel like with friends and clients, they've honored the boundary. I feel like with family, it's a little bit more challenging. Because I think with family, they feel more of a right to your energy. I also think culturally, you know, to me, it's like in Mexican culture, there's no such thing as boundaries. Like, everyone is all up in each other's space all the time. And so I feel like with family, it's harder to set boundaries, because I found that either, like, at first it was hard for me to communicate my boundary. And then once I learned to communicate it, it was still kind of like, huh? Like, what is that?
Like, we don't do that here.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's something that I've learned, like, I've just had to learn when to keep communicating the boundary over and over and over again, and then when I want to just kind of like, you know what, it's not worth the fight of it, you know.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say it's like a negative reaction. It's more just like a not understanding reaction that I've experienced.
So if someone were to not respond to your boundary in the best way, would you just keep communicating that boundary, or would you have to have a conversation?
A conversation would probably be most helpful, but I think it just depends on what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if it's something small or something smaller, then I just continue to communicate it. I've also just learned with boundaries, you have to repeat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't going to change overnight. You know, they're not like, you know, because people get annoyed sometimes that they're like, but I did communicate it and they're not respecting it. And it's like, yeah, because you need to do it over and over and over again. So most of the time I find myself, if it's a smaller thing, like I'll just repeat it a few times. But if it feels like a bigger ongoing issue, then that's when I feel the need to have more of like a conversation, which I've done. I've done both. And at the end of the day, I think it's realizing like you're doing it for yourself, not for other people, because they might not understand, they might not respect it, they might not care, they might not honor it. But as long as you're honoring it and you're communicating it and you're respecting it for yourself, that's what really matters.
And when do you know to walk away?
I think it depends on, well, no, it doesn't depend on the person. I think it depends on the situation. You know, if you feel like someone has repeatedly disrespected your boundaries, you've tried to communicate, you've tried having a conversation, you've tried repetition, and they just flat out don't honor it, then to me that's like a cutting off. Because I was going to say it depends on who it is because of family, but I actually think even with family, we have to learn to say no.
I agree. I'm in this phase of my life right now where I told my mom, I'm like, I don't care if I create family drama by not inviting specific family members to my wedding when I do get married, because those are my boundaries. And just, I'm a huge believer that just because someone is family doesn't mean that you owe them respect or your energy or time. I think it's mutual. I think everyone, at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we need to learn how to respect one another. And many people believe that just because they're family that you can't draw boundaries, or that you have to keep them in your life. But I think I'm a huge believer that it doesn't matter who they are. Family, friends, lifelong friends, doesn't matter. If you need to draw specific boundaries and cut people out of your life, and that is your truth, you honor that truth and you stay to that truth.
So do you feel like you're a people pleaser?
Oh, 1000%. You kidding me? I think I'm one of like the biggest people pleasers that I know. I have a hard time saying no to people. And like you, in this past year, I've learned, like I've always known that, but this past year has come up for me a lot. And boundaries has been a really, really big topic for me. And having to learn how to say no to people, having to learn to knowing which people I can trust with specific information, who I can't. Also drawing boundaries in business, because I do tend to let people step all over me, and I think that that's the people pleaser in me, not knowing how to say no to people, even though I know that that's not what I want. So yes, I'm 1000% a people pleaser, but I've been a lot better in the past year. Like I said, it's been a big topic for me, and I've been drawing some really big boundaries, some big old lines that you will not cross. And I think it's been a shocker to a lot of people. So, but I just, like you said, you just have to, it's a muscle that you have to work at, and just continuously and do it, repeating, is that the word? Repeating. And also talking to myself and letting myself know that I'm not coming from bad intentions. I'm coming from honoring my truth. And as long as I stick to that, that's what's most important. And that it's okay to be unapologetic about your boundaries and expectations.
Have you had any bad reactions to your boundaries?
I would say yes, but not where they're being direct with me.
Like a passive way.
In a very passive way, very like indirect, passive, and I know it's directed towards me.
Yeah.
But at that point, I just know to pull myself back a little bit more and just protect myself.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, how you handled that, or how, you know, if someone goes through that, what you would recommend.
Honestly, I think we're at an age where I don't think people should be crossing boundaries, and I don't think we're at an age where we can't communicate like adults.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of at a point in my life where if you can't come to me in a mature way and handle things as mature adults, I just kind of don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's wrong, but I don't know. I just feel like I'm at a different point in my life that I feel like I don't have time for bullshit.
I like that. I think that's the way to be, honestly. I know it's hard to not care, but we need to get to that point.
Yeah, sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't have to owe people an explanation. Know that. If you feel like you're coming across someone that knows how you feel, knows what you expect, and they continuously go against that, don't feel like you always need to communicate that with people. If you feel like you just need to retract yourself and that's the best way to protect your energy, then you do that.
Yeah.
There's no handbook on how to handle boundaries and relationships with people, because unfortunately you can try to continuously communicate with someone, but if they're the wrong person, it doesn't matter how many times you talk, they will never listen. So sometimes the best thing to do is just draw the line and walk away.
Yeah. So in this season, what area of life have you had options? Like, what has that looked like for you?
Business.
Ooh. I know. You've had a lot of options with business. So what has that been for you?
The first one that sticks out to me is having options with who to work with. And I think it's because of the opportunity that I was recently given. I have a lot of people that want to work with me. And because of that overflow of people that want to work with me, I have options to say no. And, yeah.
Did it feel weird to say no, or do you feel like good saying no?
It feels really good saying no. I'm not struggling with it. A part of me feels bad for them. Not for me.
Sucks to be you.
For them, not for me. Let me check that out. But,
That's so funny. Feel bad for you, not for me.
It is what it is. I have options at the moment, and I think it's beautiful to have options.
It is.
And then I want to tie that back to when having options, you have the opportunity to say yes to people and things that are meant to go with you in this path of alignment. So just because I have all of these options doesn't mean I'm going to say yes to everyone. If I'm going to say yes to someone that's going to work with me, I better make sure that, one, they take their business seriously, and that they'll take my work seriously as well. And it's not anything personal. Again, it comes with alignment, and it comes with that, you know, we two parties have the same goal of wanting to grow, and I need to see that from the other party. So it just feels good to have those options and to be able to say no to those that I don't feel put their best work or the best foot forward, like the other half of the people.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's almost like you have certain standards and boundaries around what you expect, what you want, and if somebody doesn't meet them, you're okay with saying, like, okay, this was an option, however, it's not a good option, therefore my answer is no.
Correct, because if I have an overflow of people that want to work with me, okay, so for instance, on this hand, I have people that are hustling at their business, that are hustling at growing their business, hustling at making their products better, hustling at having beautiful content constantly being pushed out to their audience and trying to grow their Instagrams. And then on this end, I have someone who doesn't have the best branding, who doesn't try out their branding, that hasn't posted in the past 6 months, that doesn't work hard at pushing out the best content, that is not active on their stories. Why would I give these people a chance when we have these people on the other hand who care about their business, who care about growing?
Yeah.
You know, so this is where I say that it's not like I'm saying no because I want to say no. I'm saying no because they're not in alignment, because I have other people that are in alignment that work at their business, and because I can see that they're also hustling and I'm hustling, we can now come together to create something beautiful together. You know, because how can you create something beautiful with people who don't give a crap about their business?
Yeah.
You can't. So right now I'm in that business phase where I have the options of who I want to work with, and it feels really nice.
Yeah.
It feels really nice.
Okay, so you kind of started answering this question already, but like I'm actually having the opposite experience where I struggle when there's options and like picking. So what advice do you have for someone around like making the best decisions for yourself when you have options in front of you?
As a Capricorn, I really love to have physical or mental notes in my head, like bullet points or a list in my head. So those non-negotiables would be like I said, are they active on their Instagram? How often are they posting? Are they active on their stories? How well is their branding? But besides that, also what feels right. Because I think sometimes it's easy to make decisions based off of how many check boxes or how many boxes someone checks off versus how you feel about the situation or someone you're wanting to work with. But I do have mental notes and physical notes of things that I am looking for, and they need to hit those, as well as how do I feel about it energetically.
Okay, so it's almost like a mix of like feeling like the energy, but also practical.
Yeah.
Where it's like, here's the list I have in my head, here's what I want, here's what my expectations are. Does this person meet them?
It's like a balance of like head and heart.
Yeah.
Finding like that little sweet spot. That's the only way that I'm able to really make decisions based off of the options that I have.
Yeah.
And that's what's really helped to me right now with figuring out who I want to work with.
That makes so much sense. I like that.
Yeah. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about you? I know you're also in the season of options. How are you experiencing options?
So, I'm experiencing options. I'm glad you're excited because I'm over here like stressed out. So, I am experiencing options when it comes to dating, which most people would be like, that's great. And I'm over here like, oh my gosh. Like I actually have a hard time with it. Like maybe it's because I went on a bad date this last week, but I just remember sitting there like on that bad date and just being like, I hate this. Like I hate these options. And maybe what it was more in that specific situation. Maybe I just hated that option that was in front of me. But it's hard because I think what it is for me is like, you know, I love how you said it's a balance between your head and your heart. I think that's what it is because I feel like I bounce between one and the other. So I'm either like in my heart or I'm in my head, you know, and so I think what happens is I get in my head and then that's where I get very either logical or masculine, or I start to like second guess, you know, because I'll find myself wondering like, well, how do I know? Like, how do I know if this is the person? How do I know if this is the right choice? Or then I'll get in my heart and then I'm like feeling good, but then my head is like, but is this right? Is it what, you know what I mean? So it feels almost like a battle versus a working together. So I don't know. I'm having like I have options, which is good. It's better than no options, you know.
I know, because you just recently went from like 0 options to all of the options.
But that's hard. I think what's hard for me too, and this is because it's where I'm learning to set boundaries, you know. So I feel like it's also that space where then in having to choose, that means you're saying no to some people. Mm-hmm. And I have a really hard time with that when it comes to dating, because at the end of the day, I feel like with dating, it's so, at least in my mind, I'm like, this is so vulnerable, mm-hmm. because you're putting your heart out there, you know. And so I have like so much empathy for, you know, when I go out with somebody, I know that they're doing their best, even if it's not my best or my version of best. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, this is their best. They're showing up. They're giving me what they can. They're asking me out. They're planning the date. So I feel like we're both putting our heart out there. And then for me to say no is really hard. So I just think when it comes to somebody's heart, it's hard for me to say no versus when it's like business. I mean, obviously people's emotions are still involved, but it just feels like such a raw, vulnerable area to me. So rejecting someone is really hard. Mm-hmm. Mm. Especially if I know like, oh, they're interested. Like I can tell, you know, like, oh, they liked me. Like they were in, but I'm not in.
Yeah. Even on the first date, you feel like that? Like what if you only had one date with them?
I do, because it does take a lot of time, effort, and energy to even show up for a date. You know, and I guess a lot of it too is I also think of it from a guy's perspective. Like, I think we can make it very hard for men sometimes. So I think for them to probably even sometimes get a date, get a girl to actually respond, go on the date, you know, because even for me, like as a woman, getting ready, making the time, showing up, it's a lot of energy. I guess I just make the assumption of like, it's a lot for me to go and put myself out there. So I assume it's a lot for them to go and put themselves out there, you know, and if they leave with their hopes up, and then I'm like, actually, I don't want to go out with you again, I just feel bad. I feel bad doing that.
I could definitely see it being hard, but at the end of it, you're still honoring your truth. I mean, you also can't say yes to everyone. I mean, no. You can't date multiple people, you know, and be in multiple relationships. I mean, if that's your...
Yeah, I was going to say, nowadays you can.
That's what you want to do. I mean, no judgment here. You know, at the end of it, you can't say yes to everyone. You're going to have to say no to some people, and unfortunately you're going to have to say no to people that are not in alignment with you. Yeah. And I think that that's like the big lesson here, is that with options, it's really nice to have options, but there's also the side where it becomes difficult because you can't say yes to everyone.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things you said was like the list. And when you said that, it made me realize that is what has helped me so much this time around, is that I'm going in super clear on what I'm looking for. And I feel like before I would go on a first date and I still wouldn't know, where this time after one date, I'm like, oh, I can already pick up based on just what they're saying, how they're showing up, what they're doing, like, I'm already like, no, that person, he doesn't have what I'm looking for, versus like this person has what I'm looking for.
Okay, and so my question would be, is this based off of because you've met some men that have shown you specific qualities that you can then compare to the people that you say no to? Or is it just something that aligns with you internally that you've known, I guess? If I'm asking that correctly.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's kind of both, because in a way I do feel like I'm starting to play into both, how you said, where it's a mix of like energy on your list, right? So I think right now I'm learning to balance both and trusting the way I feel around a man. You know, it's like, does he make me feel safe? Does he make me feel taken care of? Does he make me feel like I can be in my feminine?
Does he respect your time?
Does he respect my
time? One.
And at the same time, I can only show up in my feminine and see if a man is going to show up in his masculine, you know? And so by me showing up in my feminine, it leaves room for him to show up and show me who he is with feminine energy. And so in a way, it's like, you know, I think that's why dating is so hard for me, because it requires two people and two energies, which means like 50% is outside of your control. Mm-hmm. Where with business, with other things, I'm like, I'm in control. I can do what I want, you know? And with dating, I'm like, I gotta see how the other person shows up. So I think what's been beautiful about this experience is that it's allowed me to see how a man shows up, and to see like when he's in his masculine, how he shows up, and when he's not in his masculine, how he shows up. But because I'm in my feminine, I'm able to say like, oh, you're not in your masculine, so you're not a good fit for me. Mm-hmm. So I think it's been a mix of like a lot of learning, you know, because I took some time off of dating and just really focused on learning and growing and getting more in my feminine energy and healing. So I think some of it was bringing that with me, but now it's almost like the practical application of it, and me having to see it play out in real life, and even that being a learning experience for me too.
So how do you feel your feminine energy has been playing into options, manifesting options?
I think it's allowing me to manifest more aligned options. Because I'm of the, at least my experience with dating apps has always been that it's easy to get dates. It's easy to have options. However, I was not attracting aligned options before. You know, I feel like I was attracting men who were either like immature or not ready, or more in their like wounded feminine or wounded masculine energy. But it was because I was in my masculine. So that's why I took a break, you know, because I was like, this isn't working. I'm not attracting what I want to attract. I need to work on myself. So I like worked on that, and then now I'm attracting options again, but I am finding that for the most part, they're more aligned. You know, they're men who are in their masculine. You know, I'm still getting some that it's like, but I'm able to tell and like not waste my time. But I'm finding that like just that switch of energy, that switch of mindset and belief that like there are good men out there. There are men who are in their masculine energy. There are men who want to provide and take care of women. Now I'm seeing it, you know, and attracting it. And even if it doesn't go anywhere, just the fact that it's like, oh, there's this guy and that guy and that guy, you know, I'm able to just see a different reality than the world I was living in.
Yeah, because for a while, I remember you saying, I don't know how I'm going to find an actual masculine man. I don't know how I'm actually going to find a man that's going to want to provide for a woman and to allow for women to be in their feminine. And now you have multiple options of masculine men. And it was you making that switch. That switch, because before you were attracting men that were like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to settle down, or I don't know what I want in my life. Versus now you have these men that are coming into your life that basically have like a timeline of how they did things and how they want to do things and who they're looking for. But what's beautiful is that now you have those options, and you have the option to say no to who now isn't vibing with you energetically. Yeah. Because they're hitting all of these check boxes, right? But now it's about, okay, well, you're hitting these boxes, but now do we vibe energetically? Yeah. And I think that that's also like what's really beautiful about seeing you going on these dates. I don't know, like I picture you like as like this feminine woman at like a dinner table, like all beautiful and pretty, sitting down and waiting for like a man to be like, come here, my woman. Here's my money. Let me open the car door for you. Let me do this. Like I feel like the men that you're attracting right now want to treat you like the delicate flower that you are. And I think that that's so beautiful, and I think that someone who truly is in their masculine is going to want to treat their women like a delicate flower, you know? Yeah. Someone that they honor. But yeah, it's been really nice to see you go like through this transition and to see now the options that you've been able to manifest into your life.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. But you know what? I'll say this for anyone that's like wanting that. It exists. You know, being hyper independent, ultra feminist, I'll take care of myself, I don't need anyone, which is old me. It does not get you this kind of man.
Yeah.
And that's why I had to change, you know. And now I'm like, yes, pay for me, take care of me, like handle the planning, like do all of it. It is so nice.
Yeah.
It is so nice to just show up and be taken care of. And when it comes down to is letting a man be a man, and as a woman allowing yourself to be a woman. And it is so powerful and it is so beautiful, and understanding that as women, like our essence and our energy is enough. And you don't have to work for things. That's the beauty that we have, is like we are just powerful beings for who we are. And when you learn to embody that and you begin to attract things to you, instead of you thinking like I have to hustle for the things, because that gets very exhausting.
Yeah. When I listen to podcast episodes, or I see like TikToks and reels of like masculine men, when they talk about the feminine energy, they don't expect anything of the feminine. All they need is to be in the presence of a true feminine woman. So and that's all they want from them. They don't want anything. And I think that, I don't know, I feel like that's so beautiful.
Yes.
To be like a true masculine man and just want to be in the energy of a beautiful feminine woman.
Yes.
You know? And I think that that's where the perfect alignment, like the perfect recipe for alignment comes into play.
Yep.
But yeah.
I'm about to go on a tangent with that, because I actually believe that is true for both of us right now. And the reason why we're experiencing all of these options, I think, like with you, right, you've been really called into like boundaries and like cutting certain people off or setting boundaries with people. And I think ultimately what it is it's bringing you back to your power so that you can be in your ultimate, most aligned, highest version of yourself essence. And you just being in that is attracting all these opportunities and people and money and business and options and this and that. Why? Because the focus is you. The focus is, who are you being? How are you showing up? How are you evolving? How are you embodying you in your power? And I think that as women, like what we don't realize, and I'll use this in the context of both of us, is that our essence, our presence, our energy automatically elevates anything and anyone that we present ourselves in. So with you, it's your energy that is attracting certain opportunities in business. It's attracting certain kind of people because it's your feminine energy and your power. And it's bringing that in business. Same thing for me. It's my essence, my energy, and my power that's attracting these men. Why? Because when I'm walking down the street with a man, people look at me and then they look at him. And what do you think that they're thinking?
How well are you taken care of? Are you happy?
But if they look at it, when people look at a couple and they look at a woman, if she is well like put together, if she looks good, that automatically they look at the guy and think, oh, he must be rich, he must have high status, he
must take care of her.
Yep, it automatically elevates him to just be in the presence of you. And I feel like there's things even for you in like business that why you're being asked to like showcase yourself more is because people are going to see you in your power, and that's going to elevate them. Because I'm part of her market, I'm part of her, and I'm in her energy and her essence, so that elevates my business, that elevates.
It's something that just came to mind with the reading that I just had lately. I was told that those who burned bridges with me are going to regret not being in the season of my life.
Yep.
And that hit so hard with me because it all goes back to the energy.
Yep. And that's why when you were saying that, my mind was just like, because I realized that I'm like, it's true. If I walk into a room and I'm looking good and I'm looking feminine, and there's a man walking next to me, I elevate him as a man. Because he not only has a woman next to him, he has a good-looking woman next to him. He has a woman with good energy. He has a woman with feminine energy. That elevates his status in society. So, and that's what you do in business too, because you're in your power, you're in your feminine, you're in your energy. When you show up somewhere, when you show up to your markets and people are part of that, they are elevated in their businesses. So that is our power as women. And I do believe it's us being in our feminine energy, setting boundaries and saying that is not in alignment with me being in my highest, most aligned self, that we reserve and preserve that energy that is so sacred, and we therefore only attract the things that are worthy of being in the essence of that energy.
Thank you so much for your tangent.
I was like, I gotta share this.
I'm like, we're gonna let Natalia's wisdom just shine through right now. We are going to listen. And listen good, guys. That was really powerful.
But it's true.
It is. It's very true. Everything that you said, it makes total sense.
But I know just like if a beautiful woman walks into a room, I look at her.
Oh, absolutely.
We all look at her. She shines.
Anybody that is truly in their feminine power will make heads turn.
And it's not even about being like beautiful and like what society considers beautiful. I think it really is about your energy.
It is. It is, because you can have a beautiful, beautiful girl, but if she doesn't have good energy, immediately no one will want to socialize with her. Nobody will want to make friends with her. And people may look at her because she's beautiful, but they won't see her in that like empowered energy. There's a different feeling when you see someone who is beautiful, very well put together, and has beautiful energy. Like you just have this pull towards them, and you want to get to know them.
They're magnetic. And like I was watching this TikTok today where this girl was saying that they did an experiment where they had people that were really good looking walk into a mall and walk around, and then when they came back, they asked them like, how did people treat you? And they were like, oh, they were so nice, they were great, blah blah blah. And so then they had this makeup artist paint this huge like scar on all of them, and then they had them go walk in, same thing, come back, and they were like, everyone was so mean and blah blah blah, like had a different experience. And so then they were like, okay, we're just gonna do a quick touch up to your scar. They didn't tell them that they actually removed it, so it wasn't there anymore, but the people thought they still had it. So they went back into the mall, walked around, came back, and were like, oh, people were still so mean, and they didn't have the scar. And so to me, what it was like the projection of that energy, you know, where they had the belief of like, I'm gonna be treated badly because I have this thing that doesn't make me look good or feel good. And so when I think they were walking around with that energy, and therefore not able to kind of replicate a certain experience that they had actually already had. And that's why I'm saying it's not about like, you know, if you're someone you're like, well, maybe I'm not beautiful based on society standards or blah blah blah, like I don't think it's about that. I really think it's about your energy. So
yeah, I agree.
Be in your feminine and receive all the things. That's all I can say.
And if you don't feel confident, just act confident. Like they say, the thing about confidence is that nobody knows if it's real or not. Well, Natalia ended the episode with a bang. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here because we're at an hour now. We're trying to keep the episodes about an hour long. The audience has spoken. They like the hour-long episodes. So, okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of She's Aligned. If you have any questions or any input, send us a DM on Instagram at She's Aligned Co.
Yes. And thank you for tuning in and listening to a whole hour of us
blabber away.
And we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.